Hi guys, my name is Imogen. I'm a first year geography student at the London School of Economics, and today I thought we could talk all about how I got my place and how you can get in to LSE. First of all, let's start with some statistics. In 2020, over 22,000 people applied for a place at LSE, and of those, only 1,727 people got a place. Let's break that down a bit further. 1,043 of those places went to UK or EU students, and the other 684 places went to overseas students. The applications to places ratio for LSE as a whole is 13:1, which means for every 13 people who apply, only one person will get a place. However, the application to places ratio for each course varies greatly, and I'm going to put the most competitive courses and the least competitive courses on the screen and their respective applications to places ratios. Really quickly, because I always forget to say this at the start, if you do find this video interesting and helpful, give it a big thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more LSE content. With all that said, let's move on to the application process itself. Now, LSE on its website states that it looks for students with the best academic merit, potential and motivation irrespective of their background. All students who wish to study their undergraduate degree at LSE will need to apply through something called UCAS. Now, UCAS is the centralised application system that we have here in the UK, and almost all universities for undergraduates require you to apply through there. When considering your application, LSE looks at 5 different things. The first one being your academic achievement, the second one being your subject combinations, the third one being your personal statement, fourth, your teacher's reference, and finally, any other circumstances that need to be taken into consideration. First of all, let's talk about your academic achievement. So LSE looks at all grades for 2 years prior to your application. So for UK students, that means that they do look at your GCSEs as well as your A-levels. And importantly here, you need to have achieved a B in your GCSE English and Maths in order to even be considered. If you don't have this, it is very unlikely that you're going to get a place. Additionally, if your predicted grades don't meet the requirements that are set out on the website, then it's also very likely that you're going to get rejected. And to be honest, I would say it's not worth an application. Secondly, let's talk about subject combinations. Now, LSE offers range all the way from A-star AA all the way down to AAB, and sometimes even lower, but we're going to talk about those special circumstances later on in the video. LSE want you to have 2 preferred subjects. These are also called traditional subjects, facilitating subjects. They have so many different names from so many different universities. But essentially, LSE have a list of non-preferred subjects, which I'm going to put on screen now. And if you have one of these, that's absolutely fine, as long as you are taking 2 A-levels or qualifications in the other preferred subjects. Now, in order to find this information for you today, I have dug through the depths of the LSE website, and one thing that I did find was they said they prefer for you to have your grades first time around and not to have to resit your exams. However, that being said, I have friends who have reset their exams and now study at LSE, so that is literally something they prefer and not necessarily something that's going to immediately determine the outcome of your application. If you have done the EPQ, the Extended Project Qualification, this is actually not taken into consideration by LSE. So if you did what I did and completely forget to put it down in your UCAS form and then panic afterwards, there is no need to worry. One thing I would say about your EPQ, even though LSE don't necessarily take it into account, it is such a good thing to put in your personal statement because you've already researched really deeply into that topic, and therefore you can just transfer that into your personal statement. It is really important that you look at your specific course and the entry requirements on the website, because for some courses such as economics or financial maths, you may need to take specific subjects such as A-level maths. This next thing to note is not necessarily linked to your subjects at school, but if you want to do the LLB, which is basically the law undergraduate degree, then you will need to take the LNAT, which is the Law National Admissions Test, which lots of universities ask for. It's basically a qualification that you sit outside of your school subject, and it just gives them a little bit more information about your aptitude to study law at university. Likewise, applicants who want to study maths are encouraged to take the TMUA, which stands for Test of Mathematics for University Admissions. However, this isn't compulsory. Over the past couple of months, I've had a few different messages from some students doing foundation courses and foundation years at other universities. And LSE will consider you. However, it does state on its website that foundation courses and foundation years at other universities are not necessarily acceptable for all programs. I guess the most important thing to say here is that meeting or exceeding the academic requirements does not necessarily guarantee you a place. Even if you have 4 A stars at A-level and you're applying to a course that only needs, 3 A's, that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get a place. But likewise, if you only just scrape past the entry requirements, that doesn't mean that you're necessarily not going to get a place because you've just scraped it. And that leads me nicely on to the next section, which is the personal statement. Now, LSE will read your personal statement. I can guarantee you that. The personal statement is one of the most important parts of your LSE application. LSE does not do interviews for any of its programs, which means that the main differentiating factor between different applicants is the personal statement. For that reason, your personal statement is definitely going to be read, and it's likely that it's actually going to be reread multiple times. 75 to 80% of your personal statement should be academic. LSE do want to see you as a well-rounded individual, but quite honestly, that can be done in 20% of your personal statement, and they are more interested in seeing you as an academic and seeing what you are capable of. This is going to sound so obvious, but having read a few personal statements, so many students don't seem to understand that the main thing your personal statement needs to say is not about who you are as an individual and where you've come from, but why LSE should have you as a student. Why are you interested in your course, and why does that make you an ideal student for the university? If you are applying for a joint honours course, so for example international relations and history, you need to make sure that you are giving a good chunk of your personal statement to international relations and a good chunk to history. It doesn't necessarily have to be an exact 50-50 split, but it does need to make sure that you discuss both of the two sides of your course, and also even better if you can talk about how they interlink. When talking about academic sources that you have read, seen or watched, it is really important that you don't just list them. There's no point saying to me, I've read X, Y and Z, because I'm going to say, great, but what did you learn? Instead, you want to talk about, even if you just talk about one academic source in your work, it's better that you critically analyse that than just give a list of 4 different books that you've read. To critically analyse what you're reading or listening to or watching, you need to think about, what did you learn from that text? What has that then influenced you to do afterwards? Have you then gone on to research something else? How has that changed your view? Do you agree with the author? If not, why not? Have you read something else that disagrees with the author? You need to think about all these questions, A, when reading, that would be really ideal, but even if you haven't thought about them whilst reading the book, go back, have a think before you start writing your personal statement. Just quickly, let's address some COVID year specific things. So, if you've done an internship, brilliant, put it in your personal statement, make sure it links in, it'll be really useful. But if you haven't done an internship or you haven't done the work experience that you'd hope to do, don't worry, it's not like university admissions tutors are not aware that there's a global pandemic going on and it's stopping an awful lot of things. When I was researching for this video, I actually watched a couple of webinars by some LSE admissions tutors, and they said they are well aware that not everybody has the same opportunities, especially during a year like this. However, they did give some suggestions of what you can do, so you can do some online courses or you can try and compete in an essay competition, and these just show your external commitment to your subjects besides just studying it at school. Hopefully that gives you a bit of an idea of what to include, but if you're after some more inspiration for your LSE personal statement, I actually have a video up on my channel where I talk through my own personal statement that got me into LSE line by line, talking about what I did well. The next section of your application is the teacher's reference. Now, obviously there is limited scope for you to influence this part of the application. However, if you do get a choice on who's writing your reference, make sure you pick a teacher who knows you really well. And section number 5 is your educational context or your educational background, and there are some updates here specifically for this year. LSE do not expect every student to have A stars or 9s across the board at GCSE and A stars across the board at A level. That would just be so unrealistic. Instead, your educational and your social context are taken into consideration. They take a holistic approach to your application, looking at the different things that could have influenced you throughout your educational journey. Very excitingly, this year LSE are piloting contextual offers. Now, for those of you who don't know, contextual offers are offers that are given out to students who come from disadvantaged backgrounds. So this is normally 1 grade lower than the standard entry requirements. And your disadvantage might be because your school is often quite low performing, or it could be because of the neighbourhood that you live in. There are a few different factors, but the specific ones for LSE I'm going to put on screen now so you can see them. And finally, a few other tips and things to be aware of when applying to LSE. I feel like this one should have gone first, but LSE is a social science university, which means if you've got all the way through watching this video thinking you're going to be applying to LSE for medicine, I hate to break it to you, but it's not going to happen because they don't actually offer it. Secondly, LSE does not care if you have applied to Oxbridge. It is not going to affect your application in any way, shape or form. This is a really important one. Equal consideration is given to all applications as long as they're in before the UCAS deadline, which is normally the 15th of January, but I know this year it's been shifted back because of COVID. That means even if you submit your application in September, October time, they're still not going to look at it until January, because LSE like to consider all applications together, and not like a lot of other universities who consider their applications on a rolling basis. LSE don't do clearing or adjustment, so if you haven't applied before the normal UCAS deadline of the 15th of January, then I'm afraid you will not be getting an offer. There is no point applying to more than one course at LSE, because what this essentially does is it dilutes down your application, and although this isn't explicitly stated on the LSE website, you only have to look at forums like the Student Room, where a lot of students have applied for two very similar courses actually, and then been straight off rejected for one of them. The university really likes to see students who are committed to their subject, and by applying for two, you're not really showing that. Applying for two courses doesn't improve your chances. You are better off just looking for the course that suits you best and applying for one course. Plus, this gives you more options on your UCAS form to apply to other institutions. However, that is very specific to LSE. I know lots of people who have applied for two different courses at other universities and gained places for both of them. Last but not least, I know a lot of you will be waiting at the moment for LSE offers, and I want to talk a little bit about that. Now, when you get your offer or get rejected, doesn't necessarily correlate with when you sent in your application. So you could have been the first person to send in your application in September, October time, but you might not necessarily get an offer until March or April time. That doesn't mean anything significant. I know it's a bit annoying that it takes them so long to get back to you, but it is just because they're really considering the applications. Because your personal statement is read and then reread and then potentially even reread again, that means that the process of giving out offers is a lot slower at LSE than other universities. I actually sent in my application to LSE on the 4th of December, but I didn't receive my offer until the 13th of February. If you're interested in hearing more about the application offer timeline, then do go and look at my Applying to LSE series, where I interviewed some other students. Whilst I was nervously waiting for my offer, I was looking on a few different forums and things, and it tended to be that students were getting offers on a Thursday, normally between 1 and 5 p.m, and then a lot of students were getting rejected on a Friday. I don't know if that's the same process every year, but that's just something I picked up on last year. If you are waiting on an offer at the moment, very, very best of luck to you. I have my fingers crossed for you. Please do send me a little DM letting me know how you're getting on. I really do love hearing from people who have applied. Likewise, if you have any questions about LSE in general or about the application process specifically, do leave them in the comments down below. Give this video a big thumbs up because it really does help me out, and subscribe to my channel for more LSE content. I will see you next time with a new video. Bye!